My name is Olivia Hartman, 38 years old. It was close to midnight when the first alert came in, $1,672 at a jewelry store I'd never set foot in. At first, I thought it was fraud, some random card skimmed at a gas station. That would have been the easier explanation. I opened the banking app, expecting to click report, call the hotline, and fix it in 5 minutes. But the more I scrolled, the colder I became. Another charge, $1,400 at a second store. Then $900 at a restaurant I didn't recognize. An Uber ride across the city. And then another jewelry store, this time for $1,756. Over 5 and gone in one night. I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, screen glow against the dark. The house was still. My kids were asleep upstairs, and the fridge hummed faintly. My hands were shaking as I checked every alert again. That's when I remembered the text from earlier. Hey, Aunt Liv, I used the card for something small. Hope that's okay. The smiley face. I'd been baking cookies with my youngest when it came in, and I barely glanced at it. Something small meant coffee, maybe a pair of shoes. It didn't mean she'd waltz into designer stores like a VIP and throw thousands onto a card I kept alive only for emergencies. Lily was 15. 15! Old enough to know better. I closed my eyes and exhaled, not just at the money, but at the betrayal. This was the same kid who'd sat at my kitchen table watching me cut coupons, the same one who'd borrowed my coat for winter and left with cocoa stains on the sleeve. And she thought I was rich enough to rob for earrings and gold chains? The bedroom door creaked behind me. My husband, Mark, padded into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. He took one look at my face and didn't even ask, "What happened?" "She drained the account," I whispered, turning the laptop toward him. "Look, jewelry, dinner, rides, thousands." His brow furrowed. "Lily?" I nodded. He stayed calm, the way he always did, steadying me like an anchor. "Don't call anyone yet. Not tonight. Think first. Breathe. Then deal with it." That was the only reason I didn't call Jeff right then and scream until my throat burned. Instead, I sat down on the floor with my laptop, back against the bed frame, and started shutting everything down. First the card. Freeze. Gone. Then the account itself. Locked. Changed the online login. Turned on every possible alert. Moved the little that was left into a new account at a different bank. By 2:15 a.m., every faucet she could drink from had been turned off. I didn't sleep. I lay next to Mark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of cars outside, waiting for the storm. At 7:20 a.m., I heard it. Jeff's voice carried across the street like a fire alarm. Through the window, I saw him pacing his porch in socks, phone in hand, shouting. His wife lingered in the doorway, not stepping out, not defending him either. My phone rang 10 minutes later. I didn't need to check who it was. "What the hell did you do?" Jeff barked the second I answered. "Lily's in tears. She said you humiliated her. What kind of person freezes a kid's account over some shopping?" I let him rant. When he stopped for air, I said calmly, "Bring me everything she bought, all of it, today." "She's been crying for hours," he snapped. "You've made her feel ashamed." "Good," I said. "She should be ashamed. She's 15, not 5. And she just stole $500 to $800 from me. You have money, Liv. You're not going to miss it. Don't be cruel." I repeated, "All of it, Jeff. You have 3 hours." And I hung up. It was the calmest I had ever felt after being robbed. 3 hours passed. Then 4. Then 5. Nothing. At 6:12 p.m., Jeff finally texted, "We'll bring it after dinner. Don't make a scene." No sorry. No explanation. Just another order disguised as a warning. When their car pulled into my driveway at 7:04 p.m., Jeff stepped out like he was dragging a corpse. Lily slumped behind him, arms crossed, a glossy shopping bag dangling from her hand. Neither met my eyes. Jeff thrust the bag at me with a theatrical sigh. "Here, I hope you're proud. She's been crying all day." I didn't respond. I opened the bag right there on the porch and started pulling items out. A necklace, a pair of earrings, one ring. That was it. The receipts in my hand told a different story. Several items were missing. "Where's the rest?" I asked. Lily stared at the ground. Jeff cleared his throat. "She gave one to a friend. Another she misplaced. Come on, Liv, it's not like she bought a car. It's just a few things." A few things. I carried the bag inside without a word. Under the kitchen light, I spread the jewelry out, compared it to the receipts I'd printed from the online statements. Thousands still unaccounted for. Jeff followed me in, his voice getting sharper. She's a kid. You're blowing this way out of proportion. You're not bankrupt. You're just trying to embarrass us. That was when something broke inside me. It wasn't the money. It was how little he cared. How easy it was for him to treat me like a bank in a dress. How quick he was to twist her theft into my cruelty. I turned and met his eyes. I'm returning every single item, and I expect the rest, or the cash equivalent, in 48 hours. He scoffed. You can't be serious. Do you know how humiliated she'll be? She'll never live this down at school. She should be humiliated, I said, my voice cutting through the air like glass. She robbed me. She's not my child. She's yours. Teach her accountability. For the first time, Jeff faltered. Then he squared his shoulders. You know what, Liv? You're not family. Not really. You act like you're better than us just because you have a husband and a house. I walked past him and opened the front door. Take your daughter home. Lily shuffled past, still silent, still refusing to look at me. Just before she climbed into the car, she glanced back, not with regret, not with shame, just annoyance, like I'd ruined her night. I closed the door. 10 minutes later, I typed out a group message. No softening, no diplomacy. Lily spent $5,832.47 on my account last night. She returned only $2,800 worth of jewelry. 4 items are missing. I'm returning what I can. I expect the rest or the cash equivalent within 48 hours. Also, Jeff is still driving the car I gave him when his broke down. I'll be reclaiming it this weekend. He owes me $2,400 from last spring. I expect it by the end of the month. I'm done being his financial backup. This isn't personal, it's survival. I hit send. Then I silenced my phone, played a dinner for my kids, and sat at the table pretending everything was normal. Mark poured me a glass of wine, his eyes knowing better. Across the room, my phone buzzed relentlessly. The replies would come fast. But what came next? I wasn't ready for that at all. The family group chat was already smoldering by the time I carried plates to the sink. Mom opened with her usual moral lighting bolt, no context and no punctuation. You did not have to make a public spectacle. She's a child if your father were still here. I stopped reading. The next bubbles stacked like hailstones. Aunt Carol, is this true? Cousin Sarah, insane. Uncle Ray, wait, $5,800? From a kid? Then Jeff, predictably, so this is how you repay us? Over a couple grand? You're disgusting. Enjoy the attention. You're out of this family. Mark glanced up from drying a pan. Want me to take your phone to the garage and let it scream into the paint? Tempting, I said, rinsing the glass, but not necessary. He tilted his head. Receipts? Receipts. I set the phone face down and opened my laptop. If they wanted a trial, I would give them evidence, not performance. I dragged a neat stack of digital papers onto a single screen. The bank alerts, the itemized statements, screenshots of last year's $2,400 transfer to Jeff, the email where I offered him my old car, the photo of Lily beaming next to the MacBook I'd bought so she wouldn't fall behind at school. I pulled copies into a folder labeled, "This is not cruelty," and felt something steady click into place. Across the room, my phone rattled against the counter. I ignored it long enough to melt cheese over my kids' lasagna and ask about spelling tests and practice drills. When the table was cleared and bedtime done, I finally picked it up. The chat had become a bonfire. Mom, we handle things privately. You never should have sent that message. She's crying. Do you feel good about that? Aunt Carol. Olivia? Cousin Sarah. $5,832.47? That's not a few things. Then, like a surge protector snapping into place, a new message landed. Amanda, Liv's covered Jeff's rent before, paid his car insurance, lent him $2,400 last year, gave him a whole car, bought Lily that laptop when her school went remote. I've got receipts. 3 attached images lit up. The payment app screenshot reflecting the exact $2,400 transfer, the email thread with me offering the car, my photo of Lily and the MacBook. Silence braided through the thread for a beat, the good kind, the crack where truth seeps in. Uncle Ray. Jeff, you've embarrassed yourself. Make it right. Jenna. Lily's 15, not 5. She knew exactly what she was doing. Cousin Mateo. You don't shame the person who was robbed. You teach the thief not to steal. Jeff responded privately instead, sliding into my texts like oil. You think this makes you powerful? You're pathetic. I blocked the number and exhaled through my nose, a slow release valve I didn't know I still had. I turned back to the list. The stores, return policy, timeline. I called the first jeweler. The woman's voice had the bright chill of someone paid to sound helpful. Yes, we remember her, she said. She came with 2 other girls, filmed most of it, very excited. You're within our 14-day return window with receipt or original card. The second store confirmed the same. With printed receipts and the card data, they processed returns without questions. I watched the refund totals tally up. A little over $2,800 back, not nothing. I moved the funds into a new savings account at a different bank. Clean, ring-fenced from every person who said family when they meant funding. Next, the car. I dialed my insurance, moved it fully back under my name, then scheduled Saturday morning at 10 for retrieval, a tow truck just in case because hope is not a plan and Jeff rarely arrives with keys, gas, or gratitude. By midnight, my list was punctured with check marks. I took a photo of the page and sent a single update to the group. Jewelry returns processed today. Balance still missing. Car pickup. Saturday, 10:00 a.m. I expect remaining items or cash equivalent by the 30th. After that, I'll file in small claims. Do not contact me unless it's to confirm return or payment. I put the phone down, like placing a lid on a pot, and let the house cool. Morning brought the slow work of normal life. Lunchboxes, permission slips, the dog scratching at the back door. I felt lighter and somehow more braced at once, like a person who'd finally stopped leaning the wrong way against a storm. The chat revived around 9. Mom, this is not who you are. Amanda. It's exactly who she is, a person with boundaries. Uncle Ray. Return the rest, Jeff, and the 29400. No more delay. To my surprise, a new private message blinked open from Rachel, Jeff's wife. Rarely vocal, always careful. I'm sorry, I didn't know it was that much. He told me it was small. I didn't ask questions. I should have. I can't speak up publicly right now, but you're right. I stared at the words. Rachel wasn't a coward. She was surviving. Thank you, I typed back. I appreciate your honesty. By afternoon, the porch bell rang. A man in a navy jacket handed me a thick envelope from the mobile provider confirming account changes. Clean severance in writing. He glanced at Jeff's house as he left, the way neighbors do when they think trouble is something you can point at. I watched him drive off and realized I was finally operating from a place that didn't require witness. I had proof. I didn't need permission. At 5, I stood at the curb as the tow truck driver rolled to a stop. Earl, according to his stitched name patch. Pick up Saturday, he asked. Want me to swing by 10 sharp? 10 sharp, I said. If there's an argument, we load first and talk later. He smiled, the weary kind. People get weird when you take away what they think is theirs. They do, I said, and made a mental note, not just cars. Dinner that night tasted like something reclaimed. Quiet, unremarkable, exactly right. Mark set a candle on the table for no reason and kissed my head on his way past. The kids talked over each other about a substitute teacher with purple hair and a class gecko that escaped during math. My phone slept on the counter. I let it. Later, in the lamplight, I pulled up the jewelry store websites to verify the SKUs against what Lily had returned. Another pass to make sure I hadn't missed anything. One item, the ring with the delicate twist band, still unaccounted for. I traced the receipt total with my finger and thought of Lily on my porch, chin up, eyes flat, that bright shopping bag, swinging like a bell. A picture flashed, her hand disappearing into her hoodie pocket when she turned away. Reflex, not theft, or maybe both. A tiny, uninvited hope flickered. She might bring it back. Then I remembered the red receipts stacked beneath my palm and shelved hope beside the warranty copies, filed but not relied upon. At 9:40, the group chat pinged again. Mom posted a single sentence that landed like a drumbeat. We do not abandon family. I stared at it for a long breath, feeling the familiar urge to explain, to type a dissertation about abandonment and access, about how love without respect is just appetite. Instead, I replied to no one and closed the thread. I didn't owe them a lecture dressed as a plea. In the quiet after, Mark and I sat on the couch with a silly cooking show on low. He reached for my hand. Proud of you, he murmured. For what? For not letting them define your kindness as obligation. He rubbed his thumb across my knuckles. That's the family script. You're rewriting it. I wanted to say I was scared of what the rewrite would cost. Instead, I let my head rest on his shoulder and breathed through the ache of muscles that had held the wrong pose for years. Saturday arrived, gray and indifferent. At 9:50, I was already in the driveway with a file folder, a travel mug of coffee, and the kind of patience you earn by deciding you will not be bait. Earl idled at the curb, tapping a note into his tablet. At 10:06, Jeff rolled up, the car coughing like it wanted witnesses. He parked slanted across my lawn, flung open the door barefoot, and grinned. A smirk sharpened into a weapon. "No need for the tow," he said. "Brought your precious car back. You can stop playing the victim now." He didn't wait for a reply. He just turned and strutted up the street toward his house, hands in his pockets, like the world was a jacket that still fit him. Earl raised an eyebrow. I gestured at the vehicle. "Load it." "Happily." The inside smelled like old food and the kind of nights I never wanted to imagine. 2 empty energy drink cans rattled in the back. A cracked phone case slid under the seat. I didn't flinch. We signed the papers, and I watched the car angle up the ramp into a future that no longer had my name on its insurance. That evening, after the tow slip was filed and my folder was closed, I showered the driveway dust off my skin and tried to let the day end. For a few hours, it did. I tucked my kids into bed. I put folded towels away. I straightened the pile of mail in the tray by the door. The house felt like a room after a long rehearsal, set pieces in place, lines learned, quiet humming with the possibility of what happens when the curtain actually rises. Monday morning, Mark walked in from the porch with a look I hadn't seen since we got the call about his father. "Liv," he said softly, "you need to come outside." I followed him barefoot, a piece of toast still in my hand. The garage door waited, white and clean and harmless, until it wasn't. The words slammed at me in bright, furious red, letters tall as my children. Petty B. The toast slid from my fingers onto the step without me noticing. For a second, everything froze. The air, the birds, even the dog at my ankle. It wasn't graffiti. It was a declaration. Someone wanted me to wear their story about me like a coat. The kids' voices sounded behind us, high and curious. I turned and herded them inside with a voice I hoped sounded normal. Then I shut the door, picked up my phone, and dialed 3 numbers in order. Police, neighbor Rick with the street-facing cameras, and my job to say I'd be late. I already knew what the footage would show. I just needed the timestamp. Rick handed me the flash drive before the police even finished taking notes. He'd queued it up himself. 2:14 a.m., grainy but unmistakable. A figure in a hoodie walking straight into frame, spray can in hand. One glance around, then big, angry strokes across my garage door. The hood slipped back once, just long enough. Lily. In her other hand, her phone glowed, recording herself. Probably for a private story, proof to her friends that she'd stood up to the aunt who humiliated her. The officer shifted in his stance after I pressed pause on Lily's face. "You want to press charges?" he asked, pen hovering. I stared at the still frame. 15 years old, sneer half hidden, arm raised like she was painting a banner for war. My instinct screamed, yes. But another voice, a quieter one, whispered about what jail records do to a kid. "Not yet," I said finally. "She's going to fix it first." The officer nodded. "Your choice. Call if you change your mind." By noon, Rachel stood on my porch, looking a decade older. Her voice was flat. "I'm so sorry, Olivia. She thought it would be funny. Her friends dared her." She pressed her palm to her temple. "I don't even recognize her anymore. I didn't invite her in. She's going to clean it." That evening, Lily appeared, ponytail yanked tight, bucket and gloves in hand. Rachel stood a few feet back, arms crossed, no phone in sight. For nearly an hour, Lily scrubbed. The fumes of graffiti remover stung the air. Her shoulders shook, her hands raw against the metal. From the kitchen window, I sipped tea and watched. My kids asked why their cousin was washing the wall. I said, "Because when you break something, you fix it." When she finally rang the bell, cheeks flushed and streaked, she mumbled, "I'm sorry." I opened the door but didn't step aside. "Are you?" She hesitated. "I thought it would be funny. I didn't mean for it to get this far." "Actions have consequences, Lily. Don't make the same mistake twice." Her lips pressed together. She didn't argue. She just turned and walked back to Rachel's car, shoulders hunched. The garage shone under the porch light, streaks of cleaner still wet, but the word lingered in my mind like smoke. At midnight, a voicemail landed from Jeff. I played it once, then again, letting the venom seep in. I hope you're proud of yourself. You humiliated my daughter, turned the family against me, made her scrub your garage like a criminal. You're petty, Olivia. Petty. And you'll regret this. Just wait. His tone wasn't rage. It was bitter, mean, curdled. The voice of someone who'd lost control and wanted to poison whatever was left. By Tuesday, the whispers had started. Jeff was telling anyone who'd listen that I was unstable, that I staged the spray paint to frame Lily, that Mark controlled me. He said I forged the bank transactions, manipulated the receipts. Amanda called, voice sharp with restraint. He's trying to smear you. He even called me twice, said you've always had a superiority complex, that you invented the numbers. I laughed, dry and hollow. Of course, if he can't control me, he'll rewrite me. But then something shifted I hadn't expected. The group chat, usually a swamp of silence and side eyes, lit up. Jenna, my cousin, who avoided drama like it was contagious, typed a paragraph that silenced the thread. Jeff, you're a grown man. Your daughter stole thousands. Instead of apologizing, you double down. Olivia's carried you for years. Stop lying. You've embarrassed yourself. Uncle Ray followed. We don't shame the one robbed. We shame the thief, and the parent who raised her to think it's fine. Get it together, Jeff. Then came the message I never thought I'd see. My mother's. I'm disappointed in both of you, but Olivia has done more for this family than anyone. If your father were here, he'd be ashamed of how you've handled this, Jeff. The silence afterward was deafening. And then finally, Rachel. For what it's worth, I agree with Olivia. I stayed quiet too long. Lily made a mistake. Jeff has made many. Olivia was just doing what any of us would have done. I'm sorry I didn't say it sooner. That was the nail. No one replied to Jeff after that. Not one word. That evening, I sat at the kitchen table with Mark. The house was calm, kids asleep upstairs. For the first time in weeks, my chest felt less like a fist. They're seeing it, I said softly. Mark squeezed my hand. They always knew. They just needed someone to say it out loud. But the calm was fragile, like glass waiting for the next crack. Because Jeff wasn't finished. I could feel it in the silence. And Amanda's warning confirmed it the next night. He was at Mom's, drunk, she whispered into the phone. Said he's not done. Said he's going to ruin you. I looked at the stack of receipts, screenshots, and photos on the table. For years, I'd defended myself with words. Now I had evidence. A dossier of truth. I wasn't going to argue anymore. I was going to end it. The printer hummed to life, page after page sliding into the tray. Bank transactions. Jewelry store confirmations. Photos of the vandalized garage. Jeff's voicemail transcripts. The $2,400 debt note. By the time the last sheet cooled on the stack, I'd already decided. I was done playing defense. Tomorrow, I'd see a lawyer. The lawyer's office smelled faintly of coffee and paper. Old school, serious, the kind of place where truth is flattened into lines of black ink. I slid the thick folder across the desk. Bank statements, jewelry store receipts, photos of the garage before and after Lily's art project. Jeff's voicemail transcribed word for word. The lawyer skimmed, eyes narrowing as he flipped. By the fourth page, he leaned back. You've got grounds for a restraining order. Theft, harassment, intimidation, property damage. It's all here. Hearing it from someone outside the family felt like air filling my lungs. So it's not just me overreacting, I said. He shook his head. It's you finally reacting. You want this to stop for good? Yes. Then let's make it official. The pen felt heavier than it should when I signed, like I was writing a chapter's ending with each stroke. When I slid the paperwork back, I wasn't trembling. I was steady. That night, Rachel showed up with Lily. They stood on the porch under the yellow glow of the streetlight. Rachel clutched a grocery bag and a car key. Lily had her hands jammed into her hoodie pocket, chin tucked down. Rachel spoke first. Her voice was firm, but I saw the cracks in her eyes. We're leaving. I got a job offer in upstate New York. Decent pay, benefits. I signed the lease this morning, a duplex near my sister. Lily's already registered at a new school. I should have left years ago, but I kept hoping Jeff would change. He won't. She extended the car key. It was yours first. I want you to have it back. I hesitated, then took it, not for the vehicle, but for what it meant. The ties were untangling. Then Lily pulled something from her pocket, a small velvet box. She held it out without meeting my eyes. The last ring, the one I said I lost. I took it slowly, waiting for her to look up. Why bring it now? She swallowed. Because I need to stop pretending I'm someone I'm not. Her voice cracked on the last word. You're not a bad kid, I told her. But bad choices have a way of chasing you. Fixing them is the only way forward. Her eyes finally lifted. I know. Rachel hugged me. Short, tight, final. We leave Monday. I don't think we'll be back. I nodded. I hope you both find peace. That weekend, the air around my house felt lighter, like the weight of Jeff's shadow had finally started to lift. But I didn't fool myself. Silence from him was never peace. It was the sound of someone waiting to strike. Sunday morning, Amanda called. He's furious, but you should know. People are done listening. Even Mom's not taking his calls anymore. Uncle Ray told him flat out he was the disgrace. I closed my eyes. For years, I'd been afraid of being painted as the problem, terrified that if I pulled away, they'd call me selfish, ungrateful, cold. Now the truth was cracking open without me lifting a finger. Monday morning, I stood in court. Jeff didn't show. Not a text, not a call, not even a proxy, just absence. The judge flipped through the papers, glanced once at me, and signed the order. It was done. Walking out into the sunlight, I felt not triumphant, not exactly, but clean, like a wall had finally been built between me and the storm. That evening, I sat on the porch with Mark. The air was cool. The kids played inside, their laughter muffled but bright. I twirled the ring Lily had returned between my fingers. It caught the porch light in a thin glint. What are you thinking? Mark asked. That maybe closure doesn't always come from apologies. Sometimes it's just... I gestured with the ring, the key still sitting on the table between us. Walking away. He took my hand, warm and sure. Then walk, Liv, and don't look back. I nodded. For the first time in years, I believed him. The morning after the court order, I woke up expecting dread out of habit. For years, I'd started each day bracing for the next demand, the next voicemail, the next accusation. But when I rolled over, my phone was quiet. No messages, no buzzing, just silence. It felt unnatural at first, like when you step off a boat and the ground is too steady. A week passed, then another. Jeff didn't call, didn't text, didn't even try to slither through Mom. Instead, Amanda told me he'd been cut off. Even Uncle Ray told him not to contact him again. Jenna blocked his number. Mom stopped answering. He's finally out of excuses. I almost didn't believe it until Rachel mailed me a plain envelope. Inside was a check, $2,400. The debt from last spring. Rachel's handwriting scrawled at the bottom. He didn't want to sign it. I made him. I paid the fee to make sure it clears. You were right to demand it. For a long moment, I just sat at the kitchen table with that check in my hand. The number itself didn't matter as much as what it meant. Closure. The car Rachel had returned sat in my driveway for 2 weeks, a relic of everything I'd allowed Jeff to borrow, break, and excuse. One Saturday, I had it cleaned, top to bottom, food wrappers gone, the air finally clear. Then I sold it to a young couple who'd just moved to town. They paid in cash, smiling like it was their first big start together. With that money, I booked something I hadn't dared in years, a weekend away with Mark and the kids. A cabin up north with a fireplace and a window that looked out over a lake still rimmed with ice. The first night, I sat by the fire while the kids roasted marshmallows and Mark poured me a glass of wine. The air was quiet, not heavy silence, but the kind that rests on your shoulders like a blanket. For the first time, I felt free. Weeks turned into months. A rhythm I'd forgotten I was allowed to have settled in. Breakfast without checking my phone for emergencies. Evenings where I cooked what I wanted instead of stretching meals thin because I'd covered someone else's bills. Bedtime without guilt pressing on my chest. Every now and then, a holiday card would slip through the mail slot. No return address, just thinking of you in Mom's handwriting, sometimes Dad's. I never responded, but I didn't throw them away either. I kept them in a drawer, not because I wanted them back in my life, but because they reminded me how far I'd come. Forgiveness, I realized, doesn't always mean reconnection. Sometimes it just means refusing to drag the weight with you any longer. One evening, Tyler dropped by with takeout. He sat across from me at the porch table, chopsticks dangling between his fingers. You know what's funny? He said. They keep saying they lost you, but they never really had you, Liv. All they had was access. The words landed like truth I'd been circling for years. He was right. They hadn't lost a daughter, a sister, an aunt. They'd lost the version of me willing to be drained, forgotten, dismissed. And once that version was gone, There was nothing left for them to hold on to. Now, when I walk past the garage door, all I see is clean white paint. No red letters, no insults burned into the surface, just silence. And for the first time in my adult life, silence isn't a threat, it's peace.